So Kimberly, if you are ready, I think we can go ahead and get started.
Hey, hello. I hope everyone is doing well. Per your time zone, I believe you're PST and I am Central Standard Time, CST. So it's 7 p.m. here in Austin, Texas. I am in the state capital. I'm not going to talk about that right now because we're always in the news. So what I'm going to do is take you into a world of art tonight, Black art, and we're going to have a good time. I'm going to close my screen so I can give you the presentation and talk with you about how this all came about while you listen, look at the presentation, and explore Art Library Deco. So please log on to www.artlibrarydeco.space. And remember that, well, we'll just start out this way. We're more than just a website. We are a virtual arts library. Terminology and etymology is always important in marketing. So here we go. Okay, welcome to Collective Relevance, Curating Black Arts and History through Independent Praxis. My name is Kymberly Keeton. I am an art librarian and so many more things. Black art genius. I have always wanted my art to service my people, to reflect us, to relate to us, to stimulate us, to make us aware of our potential. We have to create an art for liberation and for life. Elizabeth Catlett. A little background about Elizabeth Catlett. I had the opportunity to spend a summer with her in Cuernavaca, Morelos, Mexico. And during that time, I learned a lot about myself as what I wanted to become in the future. So let's say that was around 2006. The image that you see behind this quote is by the great Jacob Lawrence. We share our birthday, which is September 7th. Shout out to all the Virgos tonight, as well as this is a part of the library series by Jacob Lawrence. So what are you in for tonight? Presentation will be about meeting me, the curator, also the autoethnographer. You'll get an introduction and an overview. You'll learn a bit about history of the Black Art Library as a system. I'll share with you the manifesto that is basically telling you what our mission is as far as Art Library Deco is concerned. You'll learn more about the target market as an independent art library, art as practice, documentation, what this all entails as far as information work and archival pursuits. You'll get a brief glimpse of the virtual library stacks, the future, and publishing a case study coming soon. And I would hope that you will become a subscriber or invest as an art library patron by the time we're done tonight. So, about me, my name is Kymberly Keeton. Yes, my name is legally spelled lowercase k, highercase y, Mberly. Why? Because I'm me. I don't owe anyone an explanation. That's just my name. What are my pronouns? Kymberly, that's my name. I began creating collage art installations at the age of 8 years old. Art in its varied forms has been a tool for me to understand a culture, history, and advocacy. Through my journey as an African-American bibliophile and art collector, I have always wanted to own an art gallery / library. During my graduate student practicum is when I met the future Art Library Deco. So a little bit about that moment in time. I received my master's in library of science in 2014. So I did my practicum around 2012. Well, no, 2013. Yeah, 2013. And I would just say, in starting this out, that I was affiliated with the Museum of Fine Arts Houston in Houston, Texas, which is where I began my practicum. And then I had the opportunity to add another spectrum to the practicum with the Houston African American Museum of Culture. So when I first walked into the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, I realized that there was an art library, my first time ever visiting the institution. And when I saw that they had a library, I was like, wow, this is interesting because I've been going to museums all of my life. And my mother is the individual that opened that world up to me as far as museums, galleries, and libraries. And she never took me to the art library. So I thought about that for a long time. Did she even know that there was an art library in a museum? And why did I not have access to that, being that I love books, I love arts, and I love words? Intro overview: curating Black art and history through independent praxis. Through this journey tonight, you will be introduced to Art Library Deco, an online African American virtual art library and repository. In like manner, you will learn about the journey of how the vision came into reality in real time and where the library is headed in the future. So sweet as the moment when art went pop, the tagline for the library came to me when I was looking at a piece of artwork by Andy Warhol. I actually had the opportunity to visit the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh. And that's just an ode to him and just his movement. And I just loved all of the colors in his work. Like, he just loved color. So if you have an opportunity, go check out that museum. Okay, so as far as that number under the tagline, the ISSN number, that is basically our archive with the Library of Congress. And so this number is afforded to anyone for free. It's about the only thing you can get free these days outside of a library card. If you ever visited the Library of Congress, you could walk in, go to the archives, and ask them to introduce you to Art Library Deco. And what they would do is take you to a machine, which is a computer, and type in that number, and they will pull it up in all of our archives since 2013. So the history of the Black Art Library and how I, Kimberly, got into this. So I would say for myself, again, art has always been a part of my life. I come from a family of art. My sister and my brother are artists. My mother was an artist. And then when I decided to go into the world of writing as a creative writer, my first degree is with the University of Houston as someone with a degree in English creative writing. It's so funny. So how did I go about living the lifestyle of a writer? I'll say, well, that's a hard one in these United States, being that it's not really taken seriously, being a novelist, a poet, a creative journalist. So I had the opportunity to have a career, thankfully. However, I didn't want to live in poverty all my life. So I thought about and asked the universe how I was going to be able to support myself as a writer. So, okay, with that, one day I was in my room. I'll never forget it, in Houston, Texas. And I was sitting at my computer, and it was like the word librarian just went across the screen of whatever I was doing. And so then I started looking around my place, and I was looking at all these books, and I was like, aha, okay. So that's how all of this began. And My journey began at Texas Women's University. They didn't like me, which is okay because I'm still a Virgo, I'm still a rock star. And I decided to go to school across the street, the University of North Texas. And we have a master's in library science today. And my emphasis is in visual arts, literature, and creativity in general. So these women that you've been looking at, as far as their names, Regina M. Anderson, she was a Harlem Renaissance librarian. I would say she was artistic in every sense of the word. Vivian Ayers was the first African American to receive a faculty position at Rice University, as well as a collector, as well as a writer, poet. She won a Pulitzer for her book of poetry called Sparrows. She's also the mother to Debbie Allen and Felicia Rashad. So if you don't know those names, Felicia Rashad was on the Cosby Show. She played Claire Huxtable, and Debbie Allen was in Fame and so many other things. Mamie A. Clayton was the first Black woman to open up a library museum in California. Camille Billups is someone that I actually got to meet, befriend. She was a mentor. She was a collector in the sense of she was just an amazing person in the things that she collected as it pertains to Blackness, Black people, the diaspora, and that aspect of going outside of these United States to collect art by Black people in all different forms, books, visual art, etc. Miriam Matthews was a librarian as well as an art collector. Bella DaCosta Green was the former librarian and bibliophile for J.P. Morgan Chase, and she created his entire collection, the original collection. Jean Blackwell Houston, I'm sorry. We share a birthday as well, and she was the first librarian and director of the Schomburg, which was started by Arturo Schomburg in Harlem, New York. And why do these people influence me? Because I would say tonight that they set a path for me to know that it was cool, it was okay for me to be what I wanted to be in librarianship as a creative person, as an artist, now an art librarian. So, the manifesto. We are more than just a website, Art Library Deco. The methodology used to develop the virtual art library is in conjunction with galleries, libraries, archives, museums, GLAM, and refers to cultural institutions with a mission to provide access to knowledge, GLAMs, collect, and maintain cultural heritage materials in the public interest, and preserve and make accessible primary sources valuable for researchers as an open source collaboration. The Black galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, BGLAM practice emerged that defines Art Library Deco as an independent GLAM institution. So what I did was I looked at the methodology for GLAM, and then I flipped it and turned it into BGLAM, being that we are an African American institution, and I want to always emphasize, you know, who I am, what I've created, why I've created it. Okay. And so on the left side of this, you just have a visual of what's taking place when you go on the home page and access other things. I just thought it was cool to have something moving around in here. So independent art library gallery and repository, and how I came about wanting this to be a for-profit institution. So we are a for-profit library. The Virtual Art Library Gallery accepts patron investments to keep the maintenance and content available free of charge. Your philanthropy will support the innovation of the virtual art library. As far as being an art library card holder, everyone can enter a library for free, as well as virtually. So there's always a space for individuals who choose to go the route of getting a complimentary virtual art library card. An art library patron is someone who, again, invests in the library. And we'll talk about that later as far as the case study is concerned. So artist practice. So I was giving you a little bit of a history in the beginning. I'll let you read a little bit of this. I'll talk about one segment, another segment, probably 3 segments out of these years. So 2013, 2015 is when everything got started. It's been a labor of love. Putting all of this together and archiving all of this information about Black art. Let's jump to 2017 to 2019. Art Library Deco begins to curate online exhibitions and artistic digital projects, including the Hip Hop LibGuide. The library developed partnerships with the Smithsonian and the DUC Free Art Book Library Program, which the Hip Hop LibGuide is available for you to check out tonight, where I created this LibGuide, which received a lot of notoriety as far as documenting hip hop history, which is available to your library if you would like to use it, place it on the site, what have you. The DUC Free Art Book Library Program is a resource in which has allowed me to build the art library physically as far as collecting books. And this is a program based out of New York City. It's pretty straightforward. If you are a entity that provides books, reading, collections, or what have you, and you want to share art with other people, this is the program that you can participate in as well. Then let's jump to 2023, 2024, because hopefully you're reading along. Art Library Deco debuts the Black Art Library, transitioning into the Black COVID-19 Index, which is a body of work that I collected at the beginning of COVID. And what we did was we asked individuals from all over the world to share a moment in time, an archive, a poem, or what have you, to be published in this journal, which will finally come into fruition in 2024, which I think is enough time for people to, you know, have hopefully gotten therapy. You know, I think, you know, sending out checks was one thing, but what about the check for therapy? Okay, anyway, that's another conversation. An autoethnographic case study, which is something that I will be publishing next semester. And by the way, I am a PhD student at the University of North Texas, if I didn't say that part. And what I want to do is something you'll learn about later. So Art Library Deco and its statistics. I think that we have a really, really, really good platform virtually. We have researchers, collectors, scholars, artists, organizations, institutions, and art gurus that utilize the virtual art library. Now, when you look at the front space, the content management, when you look at all the facets of Art Library Deco, when you first land on the or when you enter into the library, it's quiet. It's not a lot of things going on, but there is a lot going on, which is how you look at a library in the physical sense. When you walk in, there are not many things being thrown at you, but there are many things being thrown at you visually. Okay, so with that premise, if you see the numbers, the impact, and new visitors that we have visiting the library on a daily basis, we're pretty popular. So one of the things that I like to share with people is the Art Library Deco LibGuide, which is fixated on the right side of the library. And all you have to do is just scroll through like you're scrolling through a bookshelf, and you just go down and you pick what you like, and then you enter in and utilize that information as a reference for a paper, or you may want to go outside of Art Library Deco and go to another museum. I just thought that was something that needed to be done for individuals to be able to utilize and see how many African American art institutions are embedded within these United States. And not just institutions, but documents, collections, exhibitions, etc., etc. Okay, so the virtual repository, what is that? Of course, every library has to have a repository in some fashion or form where you're collecting special collections, special archives. So we created the Art Library Deco virtual repository where community members share information with the library, and we archive that information as a living document, as living documents, as living artworks, genealogical interviews, oral histories, papers, etc., etc. It's so much to explore within Art Library Deco as a virtual institution. So the Hip Hop Lib Guide, again, is one of the most valuable resources that Art Library Deco has received praise about, being that it's always updated on an annual basis now, but is a living document for anyone who is interested in hip hop and learning the etymology, the history, learning about visual art, everything you think about in regards to hip hop has been documented from the beginning to where we are today in the 21st century. That was a labor of love too. And this, all of this information here was created by Art Library Deco, which you can go inside and see. I don't know, hopefully you can see this. And then you can take the time to go at it on your own. I'm sorry, what just happened? 1 second. Let me have to stop for a moment to pull this back up. My screen just froze. Give me 1 second and let it. Okay, there we go. Okay, can everyone see this? Do I
Yes.
need to stop?
Good.
I'm sorry. Okay, so you saw the Hip Hop Live Guide. Now, looking at community collaborations and partnerships, Art Library Deco is one of the first institutions that was asked to be a part of the Community Web Archive project through the Internet Archive and Archivit. So here, what we do is we web archive African American artists from the state of Texas. And thus far, there are close to 50 Black artists that have been web archived through this platform. And I've had the opportunity as the director and chief library curator of Art Library Deco to travel around the United States and talk about this Black artist collective that has been created and continuously being updated. So here is the Black COVID-19 Index, that body of work I was talking about, that was created starting in 2020, and it received a lot of pub from various forms of media. So I'm very excited to finally be able to put all of this work together and share it with the general public. And it will be a journal that you can purchase online. So the future, what does it look like? As you scroll through Art Library Deco, hopefully you've looked at 2 or 3 things. 2023 to 2028. I'll just let you read some of those things. These are things that I believe are doable by 2028. The main goal now is to solidify a few more things, a few more quirks that I think needs to be taken care of as far as Art Library Deco and the virtual side, and preparing for the brick and mortar, which I'm believing that by 2028 will be where we need to be, being that the entire library is coming from my personal collection of books, which amass over probably close to 3,000 books that I've been collecting since I was a little girl. And then the artwork that has been donated, the artwork that I've collected as a collector, and then what will be donated. So the case study is going to be a scholarly body of work, and I will let you read that. So basically what I will be doing is using the same methods that I'm using in my dissertation that I'm writing right now, is through autoethnography. And I will be looking at Art Library Deco through an objective lens, and really sitting back and taking the time to build upon what has been created and where we need to go, and creating a survey that will match what we need in order to be able to analyze the next steps as it pertains to the virtual side of the library. And you can finish reading this part here, which is my approach as the researcher and practitioner in this process of this case study. So I think, when you create something of this caliber, you always have to think about the user and what they're looking for. And I think it's also fair, as someone who has created this, that I also now need to take the opportunity to be a user myself, and step away from the subjective side of things in order for continued growth. And then here's part 3 of the case study, which the objectives are what strategies can we employ to enhance user engagement with the virtual library, which they're questions, but they're still objectives. What or how do users perceive the virtual library and their interactions with it, which is a question I would ask you to think about tonight. what are the overarching goals for the expansion and advancement of the virtual library? What are our projected subscription goals for the next 3 years? What strategies can we employ to develop an active Friends of the Library or a foundation, which is coming by January 2024, when that will be created and the executive board put together for the virtual and the physical side. Black art has always existed. It just hasn't been looked for in the right places. Ramir Bearden, my favorite artist. So I would hope, Art Library Deco, being that we're sweet as the moment when art went pop, that you would want to subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, I am here. Thank you for attending Collective Relevance, Curating Black Art and History through Independent Praxis.
That was great. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Does anyone have any questions? We're going to open it up for a Q&A session. If anyone has any questions or comments for Kimberly, feel free to unmute or put them in the chat. Anyone?
So Kimberly, you've done so much in 10 years. Like just saying everything you'd be able to do since 2013. What would you say, I feel you've said a lot, but like what would you say is your overarching like driving force to do all the things that you're currently doing? You said during your PhD right now in addition to this, so what keeps you going?
Well, I think for my PhD and writing the dissertation now is that through autoethnography, I get the opportunity to talk about being an advocate for change as it pertains to art and Blackness, as it pertains to archives and Blackness, as it pertains to a world that does not look like me on the professional side, the professional lens. And also paying homage to my ancestors in the village that I've been raised in as an artist all my life, and having the opportunity and the freedom to be myself, which I think also Art Library Deco represents. It has that ambiance of independence. And I would hope that the body of work that I've created as a professional in the future, Dr. Keeton, next semester, that I be looked at as an example of what you can do outside of institutions and systems that hold you back, hold that creativity back, that you don't get to necessarily delve into on a daily basis, and I get to, because I choose to and I want to.
Thanks very much for that.
Do we have any?
Yeah, so it's the question in the chat.
Okay. Let's see. Hillary's asking, I'm wondering how you approach metadata when describing items. Do you stick with a mainstream standard?
So the standard has changed over time. And I would say right now, it's been pretty organized in that capacity for, I would say, like maybe the past 2 years, depending upon what information we receive from an art museum, a gallery, or an artist, or if we're using public domain works, et cetera, as well as in a repository. It's pretty standard. We're using Dublin Core in the repository. That's a good question too.
All right, I got one. What is one of your favorite tasks that you do as part of your job? And then what is one of your least favorite tasks that you do?
What is one of my favorites and one of the least favorites?
Yeah.
I think the favorite is that I created it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think the most challenging part is coming, which will be the brick and mortar, because then I will have to trust someone with Art Library Deco and the virtual side. And that's always a big thing when letting your baby go. But I'm ready. I'm ready because I'm ready for the brick and mortar. I'm ready to see the books. I'm ready to see the art all in one place. And the virtual side will be in there too. So I think it's gonna be cool, but I think that's the challenging part. But I love what I do. I love Art Library Deco. I can't wait to see it grow in both capacities. So yeah.
Good answer.
Have you considered anything like TK labels? What are TK labels?
Hillary, do you have that? What are TK labels? Do we have an answer? Do you want, Hillary, can I unmute you? Give me an, let's see. Oh.
Hi, I'm gonna go. This is Hillary. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Literally shoving my dinner in my mouth while I'm talking. So I'm gonna go look it up. So I'm working archives and those, well, I hope to work in archives and digital repositories and whatnot. And my question, I'm really fascinated by your work and congratulations. This is amazing. To me, it seems I see it as like a community archive, which I have. You may not define it that way. That's just sort of how my mind is categorizing it when I was thinking of what kind of questions to ask you. Can you hear me okay, by the way? I don't even know what my volume is.
Oh yeah, you sound great.
TK labels, I learned about it in my Indigenous Cultural Heritage Management class. It's a librarianship class here at San Jose State University. It's fantastic. And it's really alternatives data, metadata standards that are applicable, and they can be applicable anywhere. But they're used often in conjunction with the Plateau Peoples Portal, which is an archive sort of, gosh, I'm going to send links because I think you'd be really interested. And I was wondering if that's more of something that I know about because I'm in the Pacific Northwest, but I'll put links in the chat. And I encourage you to look at it because they're just alternative, more culturally sensitive metadata describers, to indicate sensitivity or access. It's really more in relation to Indigenous knowledge management, but it's a great concept in general. And I love to see these things integrated more into librarianship and archives practice myself, because I think the language is really, the language and standards we use are very white-centric. And I think that would be a stumbling block in building a non-white-centric repository. I can only guess. Is it? I mean, have you struggled with that kind of issue?
No, because I'm Black.
Yeah.
And the library's Black. So
yeah.
I would have
so you're your own your ship.
If I can, I think I know.
As a librarian, I think that when you look at the funnel of words, and when I look at what I'm writing about as far as my dissertation, as far as the terminology about community archives and African-American community archives, and how, let's just say, case in point, when I applied to be the African-American community archivist and librarian here in Austin, Texas, that was the first time I ever heard the term community archives, which was in 2018. But I had been digital archiving pretty much all of my career before I even got to librarianship. So I think that, language, to each his own. However, I think that it's a responsibility of me, and also being unapologetic about my culture's lingo.
As well as you should be. And it is it's not your responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that's something important in what you're talking about and what you're saying. And I'm discussing that. I start right off with that in the significance of the problem in my dissertation, talking about terminology and how in my travels to the East Coast, to the West Coast, to the South, abroad, these terms are used in different ways, but essentially they're all the same thing in what I'm discussing as far as the African American Community Archives is concerned. And that method is autoethnography that I'm using to look at African American Community Archives. Yeah, I agree with that too. Someone else may struggle and not know what the right words will be, but would use them every day. Yeah, I think it is a responsibility for me, being that I am a librarian, I am a reader, I'm a writer. There's a standard. And where we are today, many people don't read. So I think the challenge for me is, how much content do I share? Because people don't read anymore. It's not even necessarily what you're saying, is are they reading? And that's what I would hope Art Library Deco would encourage you to do, being that we don't try to give you over 300 words to read in an article as far as content is concerned. Oh, yes, that's very true too. Yeah, I mean, how many virtual art libraries have you been to today that are Black centered, African American centered? What would you consider to be the most challenging part of archiving? There's always going to be support, and having to explain to people that you're not going to a website, you're going to a library. But I think I'm gonna always have to do that. My team will always have to do that because of how we've been ingrained with this whole idea of the internet. But somehow they're trying to walk away from that and open up these worlds of, you're going to a museum, a virtual, museum online. But that whole library thing is like very hard for people to understand that you can do that online. You can open up the doors and go inside. It's right there. Okay, cool beans. And I think also the most challenging part of archiving is having the time, and yeah, the time. Takes a lot of time to archive and to do it well. Everybody's so quiet. What y'all doing?
Would you
Okay, so
consider
I have a
that?
question. This is Aisha. I have my camera off because I'm just not dressed. So on the business side, also having a virtual library, and I totally understand you're not wanting to hand over the reins of your baby to someone else. Who do you think like will be the first that you hire or partner that you bring on? That's something that I'm struggling with, but I'm a nonprofit, so it's a little bit different. But even just thinking about delegating it's a little nerve-wracking. So I'm curious, who do you plan to bring on first?
You know, but I do know that I have that executive board in mind for the foundation, or if it's going to be the Friends of Art Library Deco. I do have that. But as far as giving it away to someone, like that's going to have to be a deep relationship. I'm being honest. My middle name is Maisha too, by the way. Aisha.
Ah, nice. I have a cousin named
Yeah.
Alicia. You know, they say you got to be careful with those Ishas.
It's actually Maisha Dion, Kymberly Maisha Dion Keeton. My mom gave me. I'm like 4 people in one. It's like she was already thinking. I'm the firstborn too. She was already thinking. Anyway, but yeah, that person, I'm praying. I'm gonna pray about that one. Pray about it. It needs to be aligned with the Virgo, you know, like Cancers are cool. Aquariuses are pretty nice. I like Sagittariuses. They're like chill. They get the work done.
I'm a crabby Cancer, so
Oh, yeah, Cancers are crabby.
yeah,
I gotta ask you when your birthday is now.
we're moody. Yeah, June
Virgo.
30th.
But y'all are very creative people though. So give a shout out to
Yes, I'm a
Cancers.
visionary, but I'm struggling delegating, but I know I'm thinking of hiring a volunteer coordinator, which will basically be someone who's in charge of getting volunteers for me. And I think that's going to be the first person that I hire, and it's going to be a paid position most likely because I want them to really take their job seriously. So, but it's definitely going to be hard because I've been doing everything on my own. My board is not a working board. They're just being very supportive, but it's time to get some people and put them to work.
Yeah. I understand your sentiments. But as far as that question, it'll be the right person. I'm a good judge of character. So, like I said, I'm gonna pray about it. We're gonna give that one to God and it'll work itself out. But I definitely will be handing it over to open up the brick and mortar. I'll always have a hand in it though. I won't say that. A little bit of a hand, a little bit.
Kymberly, is there anything you wish you knew before you started this dissertation or this journey that you're on before you started it?
If I knew anything about the PhD, oh God. Art Library Deco, that's my heart. So, you know, walking into the Museum of Fine Arts Houston and not, you know, like my mom took me to go see Georgie O'Keeffe, like at the age of 7. Like seriously, like I have been into art for a very long time. So to be going to museums half my life and not knowing that there's a library in there, that like bothered me because I was like, okay, so basically that means that either you didn't tell my mama that it was a library in here, or you didn't want me and my mama to come into the library. Okay, so, you know, with that, I had to sit down and really think about that, being that I was going right across the street 2 days later to a Black museum, which is just as big, artwork just as dynamic, and there is no library. So Toni Morrison says, what you don't see, you need to create. And that's what I do. Okay, so that's what we did. Now, with the PhD, I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, for me, it's about, you know, I just need acronyms to get the grants. Because I'm always be Kim. Yeah. And, you know, most people will still be able to call me Kymberly. I have a list of those who won't. It's pretty much that's what it's about. And I just wish that I didn't have to do coursework because I'm already a librarian. So why do the coursework? But it's all good. It's all good. I will have completed this journey in 3 years and some change. So when I get off this call, I'm gonna go to Dutch Brothers and get me an iced coffee. Me and my dog, Roxy Blue, she's in here chilling. Give a shout out to Roxy Blue. She's chilling. And we're gonna come back and we're gonna write some more and keep it going. But if you do decide to go into this world, one thing I would say, just remember it's not about you know, who's smarter than who? It's about following directions. It's about putting a document together in a format, which is about what? Organization of information, which is in what? Archives and librarianship. As well as, I'm just saying, you got to have a community of individuals who know you to read your work. You need people to read your work. And just know who you are, because you won't be that person at the end of the journey. And I'm almost done. So I defend in December if you're interested in coming to watch online for free.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. I started during COVID, right when it started. Why not? You know, let's do it. Because the world didn't know what was going to happen. So at least I can get a PhD out of this, you know? Oh my God. So yeah. It's funny because life, I never thought that I would go this route, but I would say I'm going to toot my own horn and say that I get a lot of compliments in that, being I'm a scholar and a librarian and a practitioner. Like, I'm in the community. I like people. A lot of librarians don't like people, and a lot of archivists don't like people. I don't know why, but that's true. We have like that stigma behind us for some reason. And I like for people to know that I like them, because I want them to like me, because you never know who you're gonna need. So I walk with that. And, you know, just remember this too. At the end of that process, you choose that committee. You choose those people who read your work. When I write this case study, I'll be thinking of you, you know, and how you go about and utilize and move your mouse and what you're gravitating to, and why you're not looking at this. And that's what that committee is for, is to help you get that document completed. How to be more social. I'm introverted. I'm both. But I'm a Virgo. Look us up. David Chappelle, 2
Just
Chainz.
say that. So it's a Virgo.
Yeah. Jada Pinkett, Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Ramir Bearden, Jacob Lawrence.
Stephen
I put
King.
some librarians in there too. That's true. There's this gatekeeping perception. Oh, yes. And I think that plays a part in librarianship and archives too. I think the PhD for me is freedom. It's more freedom to do what I want to do and not be micromanaged by other people's ideas. That's another thing that Art Library Deco represents, as well as the repository. The gatekeeping, though, I think it's maybe 5 Black people in my program. I've never met them. In my class, I'm not saying like, you know, overall, I'm saying that came in 2020. May not even be that many. I know when I got my master's, it was like 3 of us. But, you know, hey. Yeah. The gatekeeping. You said these some good comments. People not saying them though. I see you. I feel you. But I don't think I'm going to do that tonight. I'm in a group. You know, I have to see these people again. I get it.
We're getting close to 6
Can I ask
o'clock.
everyone a question? Can I ask anybody a question real quick?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know, if I guess I have like 3 minutes left. So
Yeah, go
can
ahead.
someone like just share with me your experience, what you thought about tonight? Or could you just go to the comment section, contact section on Art Library Deco, and just send me some feedback.
Caroline,
It's
do you
always
have that? Can you put it
appreciated.
in the chat? Comment section, or the link to that?
Oh, yep.
That'd be great.
Like Lily already did it. Thank you.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome.
please share. And you know, I'm not shy. You shouldn't be shy either. Not with me. You may see me in person too. You never know. I just got back from Boston, Massachusetts. That was the last weekend in September, and then I just got home from Mexico City on Saturday morning, and I climbed the temples in the Holy Land. And you know what? It was so interesting when I went because I kept thinking about Ghana, West Africa, and Mexico City. And I'm gonna end with this. It's just history. So I'm standing at the pyramids, and the tour guide, he starts talking about how Mexicans used to use string to measure things. So then he starts talking about African people, the Guinean people. And he says, you know, everything in Africa was measured with their elbow, 45-degree angles. I was like, oh, really? And he's like, so, you know, these pyramids are 45-degree angles. So I was like, oh, really? You know, I'm a historian too, so I had to go in. I was like, so can I ask you a question? He was like, sure, yes. So what are you saying? If they're 45-degree angles, what are you saying? What are you saying? And he was like, so you want to talk history? Yeah, let's talk history right now. So did African people build the pyramids in Mexico? The temples in Mexico? Yes, Kimberly. And that is why I create and I continue to do what I do with Arts Library Deck. It has been a pleasure with you tonight, chilling, talking about what I do on a daily basis. And I hope you support. If not, that's cool too. Just tell somebody, just say it, Art Library Deco. That's it. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
wonderful.
Very inspiring.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Not a problem.
Thank
Congrats
you,
on your
Kimberly.
journey. You got this.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Dutch Brothers, most stuff.
Good.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, here. I'll stop the recording.